Tonight, new details in the urgent manhunt for the suspect who killed a Minnesota lawmaker and her husband. The dangerous flash flooding at this hour turns deadly in West Virginia. And the new round of strikes between Israel and Iran. Could the U.S. get more involved? First, the massive manhunt for the suspect, identified as 57-year-old Vance Bolter, enters its second day. He allegedly posed as a police officer and wore a mask, fatally shooting beloved Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark. Police say the suspect also shot and injured a second lawmaker and his wife. The FBI is offering a $50,000 reward. Sources tell ABC News that authorities have found a vehicle of interest, along with personal items. Police also say they found an alleged target list with dozens of Minnesota Democrats. And we hear from the suspect's roommate and longtime friend. We're on the scene tonight in Minnesota. The state of emergency in West Virginia. At least 4 are dead and several missing from devastating flash flooding. The flooding also washing out roadways. Our weather team standing by with the forecast. Israel expanding strikes inside Iran. The death toll climbing on both sides. Ian Pannell is in Tel Aviv tonight. President Trump is heading to the G7 summit in Canada. What he's saying tonight about the U.S. involvement in the Israel-Iran conflict. Also tonight, a gunman opens fire during a No Kings protest in Salt Lake City. Terrified bystanders running from the scene. One person is dead, police taking a suspect into custody. The takedown of a passenger moments before takeoff at SeaTac Airport in Washington state. Authorities saying he posed a direct threat to the safety of the aircraft. The new details coming in tonight. The dramatic rescue at 14,000 feet. 2 hikers struck by lightning. 1 knocked unconscious. How their lives were saved. They're calling it every museum's nightmare. A tourist looking for the perfect seat collapses a rare work of art. And America strong. Fastballs and strikes and the unbreakable bond between father and son.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Father's Day. I'm Mary Bruce in for Lindsay Davis. Several developing stories as we come on the air tonight. In West Virginia, flash flooding turns deadly, killing 4 people. And Israel and Iran trade strikes as the conflict between the regional rivals intensifies. But we begin here with the manhunt for the suspect in the attacks on 2 Minnesota state lawmakers. House Democratic leader Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark killed. State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette wounded in the attacks. Tonight, a massive police presence across the Twin Cities as the search for the 57-year-old Vance Bolter intensifies. Investigators say he allegedly posed as a police officer. ABC News has learned that investigators have found a vehicle of interest and personal items they believe belong to the suspect. And the makeshift memorial tonight, flowers, candles, and notes lining the steps of the state capitol there in Minneapolis. ABC's Faith Abubey leads us off from the scene in Minnesota.
Tonight, new details in the urgent manhunt for the suspect wanted in the shootings of 2 Minneapolis lawmakers and their spouses, leaving one couple dead and the other seriously injured. Authorities digging for clues in Sibley County Sunday, an hour outside Minneapolis. ABC News has learned investigators found a vehicle of interest and personal items they believe belong to the suspect, 57-year-old Vance Luther Bolter. FBI agents today questioning Bolter's roommates, searching this home where the suspect lived part-time with his roommate and longtime friend David Carlson.
I hope he doesn't kill anybody else, and I hope he surrenders himself for the sake of his family.
Carlson telling us the suspect quietly returned to the home after the shootings while he was asleep and sent him a goodbye text message, which caused him to call police.
He just said he felt he made some choices, and he was planning some things that we didn't know about.
Is what he said.
And then that he might be dead soon.
In the last few months, Carlson says Bolter had become less cheerful after returning from a mission trip to Central Africa, but nothing to suggest he would allegedly commit the crimes he is accused of.
I knew him all my life. He wasn't that guy, you know.
The shooting is believed to have begun early Saturday morning at around 2 a.m. Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette shot multiple times outside their home in Champlin. The front door of the Hoffman's home riddled with bullets. About an hour and a half later, officers say the suspect was found leaving the home of State Representative Melissa Hortman. Hortman and her husband both shot dead. Authorities say the alleged gunman was caught on surveillance video outside one of the victims' homes, wearing a latex mask, a makeshift police uniform with a badge and taser. Authorities also say they engaged the suspect in gunfire before he fled the scene on foot, saying he left behind what appears to be a fake police car seen in this video. This neighbor recording the tense scenes playing out outside her window.
I heard a lot people talking aloud and, and shooting.
Police taking cover behind their vehicles with guns drawn, pointing at the house. Investigators still digging for a motive, reviewing writings and a list of potential targets they say the suspects left behind, which names many Democratic lawmakers and abortion rights advocates.
And tonight, sources telling our team the Hoffmans were not only out of surgery, they are awake. The question tonight, though, is why? What's the motive behind these shootings and whether the suspect had any connection to the victims? Mary.
Still so many questions tonight. Faith Abubey tracking it all. Faith, thank you. The Minnesota shootings are, of course, raising questions about heightened threats of violence. So let's bring in ABC's Alex Perche. And Alex, this is just the latest in a series of attacks against politicians.
That's right, Mary. Let's take a look at just the last 2 months. You have the senseless killing of those 2 Israeli embassy staffers here in D.C., the firebombing of a Colorado march calling for the release of hostages in Gaza, the alleged arson at the home of Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, and now this shooting of Minnesota legislators. And over the past year, you have the New Year's Day terror attack in New Orleans, the killing of the United Healthcare CEO, and 2 assassination attempts on President Trump. These are all people authorities say have various ideologies taking violent action against Americans, including elected officials and other political appointees. And while experts say that that isn't new, the concentration of it all is. And when you couple these attacks of violence against politicians with mass shootings, with concerns over the Middle East, and also with cybersecurity threats, authorities are being pressed to the max. Mary?
It is a disturbing trend. Alex, thank you. Now to the flooding threat in the east. At least 4 people died and several others are missing in West Virginia. Flash floods there destroying homes and washing away roads. Cars submerged underwater. The governor there declaring a state of emergency. So let's get right to meteorologist Jeff Smith from our New York station WABC. So Jeff, talk us through what's ahead. How long is this dangerous weather going to last?
Well, we're getting late reports of 4-inch per half-hour rainfall rates in northern parts of West Virginia, the same areas that were hammered by rainfall of that deadly flooding. Ohio County, West Virginia in particular, a flash flood emergency. Flood watches in effect through this evening from southeastern Ohio all the way down to parts of North Carolina. Maybe a little bit of a break in the action as we head into the day tomorrow, but more storms flaring up on Tuesday, so it's an active pattern over the eastern third of the country. We also have severe storms breaking out over the Rockies. Severe thunderstorm watches in effect for eastern parts of Montana. Could be some high winds and hail with those. That'll spread off to the east, Minneapolis, St. Paul area during the day tomorrow. Watch for damaging wind and potentially large hail. The heat, the big story out west. Phoenix, Las Vegas, several days in the triple digits. Mary?
Several days and a soggy start to the week for so many. Jeff, thank you. Overseas now to Israel and Iran exchanging a barrage of airstrikes. This as Israel expands strikes inside of Tehran. Explosions and plumes of smoke hovering over the city skyline. And we're also learning tonight that President Trump rejected a plan to assassinate Iran's supreme leader. ABC's chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell is in Tel Aviv tonight.
Tonight, Israel expanding its assault inside Iran as the conflict between the Middle East's 2 strongest military powers escalates. The two trading a barrage of attacks for a 3rd day in a row after Israel launched what it called a preemptive attack. The US helping Israel defend itself against retaliatory strikes. And just hours ago, President Trump telling ABC News the US could be drawn into the conflict, but claiming that hasn't happened yet. This comes after reports Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is urging Trump to join the operation to destroy Iran's nuclear program. But Trump urging restraint and a return to the negotiating table. And in a major development, ABC News learning he rejected an Israeli plan to kill Iran's supreme leader. Two US officials telling ABC News Israel identified a window to kill Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, but saying Trump wasn't on board with the plan. With the fighting showing no signs of slowing down, Iran insisting it has the right to self-defense. Tonight, the sky over Tel Aviv again crackling with the sound of war.
Well, you can see the intercepts taking place now. This is Israeli air defense trying to intercept an incoming barrage from Iran. We just had the siren a few minutes or so ago. This has happened repeatedly. You can see the flash behind me here in Tel Aviv, elsewhere in Israel, and of course in Iran. We should go.
Search and rescue teams deploying in several places across the country with bomb damage and fires blazing. At least 13 people have been killed in Iranian strikes here. The Israeli ambassador telling our Martha Raddatz 10 to 15% of the Iranian missiles are breaking through air defenses.
We have some good defense systems, anti-missile defense systems, but they're not hermetically sealing the skies.
The IDF says it struck over 250 targets in Iran since the beginning of strikes. At least 220 people reportedly killed in Israeli strikes, according to Iranian officials. The sky over the Iranian capital shrouded in smoke and fire after a gas depot was hit. Production at the world's largest gas field partly suspended. Prices of crude oil already shooting higher Friday.
Mary, Israel trying to eliminate its enemies in Gaza, in Lebanon and now in Iran. And despite calls for de-escalation from President Trump, this remains a highly dangerous moment for this region. Mary?
It certainly is. Ian Pannell on the ground in Tel Aviv. Ian, thank you. Now to the protests from coast to coast for the so-called No Kings movement. Most of them peaceful, but at least one person is dead after police say a gunman opened fire on demonstrators in Salt Lake City, the panicked crowd running for safety. And in Los Angeles, the epicenter of the immigration protests, police using tear gas to control the crowd. Here's ABC's Melissa Adan.
Tonight, chaos on the streets of Salt Lake City, gunfire breaking out at an otherwise peaceful protest. A 39-year-old man was killed.
No one should fear coming to a demonstration, peaceful and lawful demonstration in our city.
Other violence marring the mostly peaceful protest across the country. In Virginia, this man arrested after allegedly ramming an SUV into a crowd. And there were confrontations between police and protesters in Portland, Oregon, in Washington State, and in Atlanta. In Los Angeles, police breaking up crowds, what appears to be what police call a less lethal round, passing just below an ABC News camera. But the large majority of the more than 2,000 nationwide so-called No Kings events taking place without incident. In Santa Monica, I met a mom and daughter calling for an end to the immigration raids. You decided to go out to the No Kings Day protest. How come?
Well, it's actually more personal to me because my mom brought me here illegally. We are U.S. citizens now, but that doesn't take away the story of how hard it was to get here.
Those raids targeting farm workers days ago in California. President Trump days later saying there would be protections for workers in agriculture and hospitality. And on Friday, Marines in L.A. detaining a veteran who was on his way to the VA for an appointment.
Mary, all of this coming as the Associated Press is reporting that the Trump administration is handing over Medicaid information to immigration enforcement officials. That data could help them find undocumented workers. Mary?
Okay, Melissa, thank you. Now to the tanks, troops, and flyovers in the nation's capital. President Trump finally getting his military parade, celebrating the 250th birthday of the U.S. Army. The president now heading tonight to Canada for a gathering of G7 leaders, where the Israel-Iran crisis and Trump's trade war will loom large. Here's ABC's senior White House correspondent, Selena Wang.
Tonight, President Trump heads to Canada for meetings with G7 leaders as conflicts in the Middle East, Ukraine, and the president's trade war loom large. Trump celebrating the Army's 250th anniversary Saturday night on his 79th birthday, delivering a stark warning as he tells Iran not to attack the U.S.
Time and again, America's enemies have learned that if you threaten the American people, our soldiers are coming for you. Your defeat will be certain. Your demise will be final. and your downfall will be total and complete.
The first military parade held in the nation's capital since the 1991 Gulf War victory celebration. The show of force featuring 6,700 soldiers, tanks, and military aircraft. The price tag estimated to cost taxpayers up to $45 million. Weather dampening turnout for a show of force Trump has longed for. Trump will meet with G7 leaders as his trade war and efforts to reshape global alliances have strained America's relationships with those closest allies. His deadline to complete trade talks just weeks away, and those staggering tariffs looming. The head of the European Commission says she spoke to Trump ahead of the summit and reiterated our commitment to reach a good deal before July 9th.
And sources tell us the Trump administration is considering adding 36 more countries to its travel ban list. This includes mostly African nations and some major U.S. partners like Egypt. Now, this would dramatically broaden the travel ban that the Trump administration already imposed on 12 countries earlier this month. Mary? A significant escalation. Selena, thank you. Next tonight, the dramatic removal of a passenger moments before takeoff. Authorities saying he posed a direct threat to the safety of the aircraft. The passenger allegedly making a flippant remark regarding a bomb. The incident disrupting hundreds of flights at SeaTac Airport. More now from ABC's Zareen Shaw.
Just moments before this Alaska Airlines jet was clear for takeoff, passengers bound for Washington state forced to evacuate after what the airline calls a security threat. Tonight, new video capturing officials removing a passenger from the plane and taking him into custody after the airline says they made a direct threat to the safety of the aircraft to one of our flight attendants when the flight was taxiing to the runway Saturday at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. The crew acting swiftly, securing the plane away from the airport as local and federal law enforcement moved in. All 68 passengers and 4 crew members forced to undergo a security screening before returning to the airport. That incident triggering a ground stop, canceling at least 6 flights, diverting several more, and prompting hundreds of others to be delayed. Mary, the FBI and Port of Seattle police are reviewing the incident, and after a full security screening, passengers were able to get back on that aircraft, safely making it to their destination in Walla Walla, Washington. Mary.
And we are glad for that, Zareen. Thank you. Still to come here, the dramatic rescue in the mountains of Colorado, how 2 hikers found themselves trapped. Next tonight, the search for suspects in a deadly mass shooting. 1 person was killed and 11 others wounded in Elkhart, Indiana earlier today. Police say multiple shooters were involved. No arrests have been made. And when we come back, the plea from a museum after a catastrophe with a crystal-covered chair. To the Index now, an Italian museum is calling for visitors to respect art after a jeweled chair reached its breaking point. The crystal-covered seat collapsing after a man sat on it at a Verona gallery. He and a companion then walking out. Police still searching for the pair. The chair, thankfully, has been fixed. Next, drama at 14,000 feet. 2 hikers are recovering after being rescued by helicopter near Denver. Officials say the men went off course on Kelso Ridge on Thursday. After reaching the summit, authorities say one was knocked unconscious by a lightning strike. Crews airlifting both to safety. And when we come back on this Father's Day, special days at the park for a man and his son. Finally tonight, baseball, ballparks, and a father-son bond.
Tonight, Dad and I are at Hammons Field.
Matthew Burns and his father, Tom, are out on tour.
It's the Cedar Rapids Colonels. It's the Sioux City Explorers. The Wichita Wind Surge.
In Game 4 of the Western Midwest Baseball Road Trip.
20 ballparks in 21 days. It's the duo's 5th annual baseball road trip, born out of love for the spirit of the minor league.
Kids on the field between innings, these young players trying to live out their dreams, all the great ballpark food, and it's just been an incredible way to see America.
To date, they've hit 92 ballparks in 23 states, D.C., even British Columbia, covering nearly 15,000 miles. A simple quest for joy of the sport. From the fans to the food.
It's a chilly night in Bismarck, perfect for a chili dog.
And the great American pastime.
'Cause it's 1, 2, 3.
The final leg of their 2025 tour, Omaha, for the College World Series, just in time for Father's Day.
We would only see each other on Father's Day weekend for 4 days, and that was it for the year. Now we see each other for 3 weeks. We love travel, we love baseball, and we love each other, and it doesn't get any better than that.
The message I want to share with my dad is how much I appreciate him coming on these trips with me.
For the love of the game and each other.
Happy Father's Day!
A happy Father's Day to all. I'm Mary Bruce. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast.